Hi there, John. So we've just seen Donald Trump claiming a big victory coming home from the NATO summit. Has there been a bit of a change, do you think, in tune in relation to how world leaders approach Donald Trump in relation to this?
Well, Melissa, I think this is a victory for Donald Trump. He's talked about this for a long time. NATO is essentially the world's largest insurance policy. What happens is all of the countries of NATO contribute money, and in return for that, it is like an insurance policy. If somebody breaks into your house, if somebody invades your country, then the neighbourhood watch, the cops on the beat will come and defend you. That's Article 5 of NATO. Now, Donald Trump has been questioning the very alliance. He's been saying correctly that America has been essentially subsidising a lot of the countries who've been getting cheap defence, haven't been paying high insurance premiums, and he's now said he wants an end to that. Now, the notion, if you'd said a year ago that NATO, all the NATO countries would have agreed to increase their spending of GDP to 5%, few people would have believed you. So to answer your question, Melissa, yes, world leaders are taking him more seriously. They see that he not only has power, I think they see he's prepared to use power. We saw that on the weekend by the bombing of Iran, and people can argue about that, about whether it was legal under international law or whether it was moral, whatever. But I think all of these leaders are looking at Donald Trump, saying he's prepared to use power, and he's got this very shock and awe approach. If you're looking at his methodology, you can see there's a pattern here. Like on tariffs, the shock is 145% tariffs on China, and that causes all sorts of reactions, and then China comes to the table. On Ukraine, he essentially evicted from the White House the Ukrainian leader Volodymyr Zelensky. He cut off US military supplies and intelligence for about 5 days. Next thing, Ukraine is at the table. Iran, he bombs them on the weekend. In a few days' time, Iranian officials are sitting down with US officials. We're seeing a pattern here. And the bottom line is, whatever people think of Donald Trump, they're realising, world leaders, it's better to engage with him.
Will NATO countries follow through with this, John, and how soon?
Well, what they've agreed to is 2035, so that's 10 years in which they can weasel out of it, or they can delay, or whatever. And he made the point today, the president, that it won't in fact be him, whether it's Iran coming up with another nuclear program or whatever, it won't be on his watch. But I think that they'll be under pressure to start immediately boosting their defence spending. I think the Americans are going to keep a pretty close watch on that. So the bottom line is the world's becoming much, much more militarised. And the Americans would argue that that's because Russia has certainly increased the risk in Europe, and therefore NATO has to respond. China has increased the risk according to the way they see things from here where I am in Washington. Therefore, in the Indo-Pacific, all of us, including Australia, have to increase our defence spending. And so we're seeing the Trump effect. The Trump doctrine is now starting to have effect around the world.
And this all comes not long after the US Defence Secretary called for a similar commitment from Australia. Will this put more pressure on the Australian government, do you think? Yes,
there is more pressure on Australia, but Australia's in actually quite a good situation. We actually, Donald Trump, he doesn't care about the fact in previous administrations, Australia's always said to previous American presidents, we've fought alongside you in every war. We've been there in Vietnam, we've been there in Korea, we've been there in Iraq. We're great friends of America, cut us some slack. With Donald Trump, that means nothing. Zilch. He doesn't care about what's happened in the past. He's the most unsentimental politician, I think, of our era. All he cares about is, what do you bring to the table? Australia actually brings a lot to the table. Australia brings Pine Gap, which is one of America's most important surveillance facility. Pine Gap is America's eyes into China. They spy on China through Pine Gap. When they want to launch those operations in Iran, they almost certainly would have been using Pine Gap. Pine Gap, they gather material. The Americans there, I've been told, that they don't even tell Australian defence authorities about. We don't even get all the information they gather in Pine Gap. That's a big card to bring to the table. We've got US Marines in the north of Australia on rotation, 2,000 or so. Australia has a lot to say to Donald Trump. You are the deal maker. We have a strong hand. Back off. That's the sort of language Donald Trump respects.
And meanwhile, John, we've seen that Donald Trump has been pushing back on reports that Iran's nuclear program may not have been as badly affected as thought.
Yes, he's saying now, the CIA is saying, well, in fact, it was seriously destroyed. Donald Trump said the other day that it was obliterated. I don't think it was obliterated. I don't think there's any evidence it was obliterated. The question here now, the debate in America, is how badly damaged was it? His own Defence Intelligence Agency at the Pentagon said the other day it was set back, the program, a few months. Now, the Trump administration is attacking CNN for breaking the story. A lot of other media outlets ran it as well. We don't know the full truth yet. In fact, the Iranians probably don't know to what extent Fordo, underground, under the mountain, has been damaged. I don't think it's been obliterated, and there was some damage. So I suspect that the truth's somewhere between what the CIA says and what the Defence Intelligence Agency says.